Hello and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on MTV that has major trust issues. That's right, we're talking about The Challenge, Season 35, Total Madness, Episode 12, and in this episode we know things are getting down to the nitty-gritty. The Casey and Nany connection is super strong, and we get to see Ryder in this week's episode of The Challenge. But now let's start off where last episode left off, and that was everybody coming back to the bunker after the tunnel vision elimination where Maddie was eliminated. And once back at the bunker, that's when Melissa is talking about how she cannot trust Bananas or Josh, more specifically Josh, and says that he has no loyalties whatsoever in the house and she just cannot stand him. Then we get a shot of Bailey and Swaggy talking on the couch about how good of a game they've played, but now is the time to start thinking about going into the eliminations to possibly getting their red skulls. Other people looking to get their red skulls this episode in particular is Josh and Kyle and even Corey. Corey tried to FaceTime with his daughter Ryder, but she is just upset with him. She is very young, so she doesn't understand exactly why Daddy is away, why he can't talk to her on the phone as much, and so she's just very upset with him, which in turn, once they're done with their video chat, Corey is very upset and is thinking about wanting to either be the house vote or win into the tribunal to throw himself into this week's elimination. Speaking of the tribunal and daily challenges, let's move on to this week's daily challenge called Tanks a Lot. Ooh, the puns just keep on rolling. Just like TJ's tank over this pile of junk in the middle of this field, that's when TJ gets out and tells everyone that they will be in teams of 3, and what they're gonna have to do in this daily challenge is work as a team to get the heaviest junk into their bin. After a certain amount of time, they will weigh the bins where the top 2 teams with the heaviest bins will move on to stage 2. Stage 2 of this daily challenge is they're going to be strapped up to this very heavy sled, and they're going to have to carry this sled across the finish line. The first team to get all 3 of their members across the finish line will win into the tribunal and hold all the power. Now the teams are set, and I thought the team 1 with Corey, Josh, and Casey were going to be a tough team to beat. We got a confessional by Kyle talking about how he can carry really heavy things and walk, and that's one of the best things he can do, which if you remember in War of the Worlds 2, that's not exactly how things happened in that elimination with Theo. Kyle just could not carry heavy things up to a certain point, and he lost that elimination in that season. So coming in, I didn't think his team was going to do well just for the sole fact that I didn't think Kyle would do well in this daily challenge. Now everyone's carrying heavy things. We had 2 injuries on the day, and I'm surprised that it's only 2 injuries. That was one, Kyle getting his finger stuck in this like metal contraption. Corey was pulling on this giant hood of this car and he popped his ankle, or he heard his ankle pop, and he was hurting for the rest of this episode. Finally, after carrying massive amounts of junk across this field, whether it was with 2 people, 1 person dragging it, rolling it in barrels, TJ finally blows the horn, and it's down to 2 teams, and the 2 teams were team 3 with Jenny, Kyle, and Anissa, and then you had team 5 with Fessy, Bailey, and Dee. It comes down to the sled pull between these 2 teams. TJ blows the horn, and Fessy is out of this gate like lightning. My gosh, this dude is just pulling this thing like it's nothing. He gets through the finish line first and by a mile. Then we had Jenny, then we had Kyle. Bailey came in 4th, and it's down to just the 2 people. It's down between Anissa and Dee, and Anissa was actually ahead this whole time, and at one point she just started slowing down majorly. She kept on like just getting all the way up. She wasn't staying low enough. She wasn't keeping at a consistent speed. And that's when Dee pulled away, crossed the finish line first, and Team 5 won, winning into the tribunal and getting to hold all the power in this episode. Now we go back over to the bunker after this daily challenge, and that's when Kyle and Corey are campaigning on who wants to be the house vote. But Josh is talking about how he doesn't want to be the house vote. That is a huge disadvantage to be just thrown into the next elimination. If he's at least nominated by the tribunal, possibly if he has enough friends on the tribunal that he could give the thumbs up or the thumbs down if he wants to be thrown into the elimination or not. Fessy is getting super annoyed with trying to explain to Josh that no matter what the elimination is, you're gonna have to go in sooner or later. Why not just go get thrown into the elimination by the house vote? Because then you know you have a shot of getting your red skull. If you're waiting for the quote-unquote right timing, it may never come, and you may just be thrown off into the game because it's a huge purge, and whoever does not have a red skull is going to be thrown off the season. Then we go into the nomination ceremony, and that's when Corey opens up with a speech about how he has a daughter back at home. He wants to know that he deserves to be here. If he gets thrown into the elimination and wins, then he gets his red skull, and he knows he can go into the final. But if he gets thrown in and loses, then he gets to go hang out with his family. He wants that opportunity to either get his red skull or go home to his family, and he locks it up with this speech. It's over. Kyle tries to rally the votes, but it just does not work. He is getting frustrated, but it comes down to a vote of 8-4. And then we have this huge fight between Melissa and Josh, where Melissa is calling Josh a snake, how he has no loyalty to anybody. Apparently, Josh has been very buddy-buddy with Bananas and Kyle this whole game, and then all of a sudden, he swears on his family to Corey that he will give him his vote to throw him into this week's elimination. So that sends Melissa into just fight mode, where she is just yelling about how he has no loyalty, how he's a snake. That's when Josh decides to be a literal snake and start hissing at her. Melissa gets on the coffee table saying that he is nobody to her in this house. Like, he is just nothing to her in this house, and she is just done and fed up with him. So Corey is the house nominee, and then everybody gets dolled up to go head out to the bar, except for Corey, who is going to ice his ankle as he knows he's going to be thrown into this elimination. So he wants to be fully ready and as prepared as he can be, even though his ankle is really, really messed up. Once at the bar scene, that's when we see Casey and Nany are really, really close with one another, like almost too close. And we had this earlier on in the season when Anissa was trying to tell Casey, like, hey, I know you have somebody back at home. Just know that maybe you guys need to separate a little bit because you don't want the edit or something happening where it'll show something that you may not want to see. Then we get a shot over with Bailey and Swaggy at the bar, and that's when Swaggy may not be 100% wanting to go into the purgatory floor this week, but he knows that this is the best opportunity he has. He has two very strong connections on the tribunal. They have his back. They have his best interest at heart. And he knows that if this is possibly the last red skull he can get, this is the ample opportunity. So he is thinking that he should go into this elimination and try to get his red skull. Now let's go over to the tribunal ceremony, and that's when they pick 3 people to interrogate. They decide to pick the other 3 people that do not have red skulls as of right now, and that is Swaggy C, Kyle, and Josh. So they bring them all in. Swaggy C is the first one to get interrogated, and Fessy and Bailey essentially tell him that they have his back, they have his best interest at heart, and whatever he wants to do, they will support him and throw him in if he wants to go in. And that's when he says, I want to go in regardless of what the elimination is. He's hoping that it's not something that's left up to chance. He would rather it be something physical. And they said, okay, cool, we completely understand. That's when they bring in Kyle, and Kyle is talking about how he would like to go in if it's something that's not a puzzle. And then Fessy tells him, hey, I have other allegiances to the other 2 people that are in the interrogation room with Josh and Swaggy C. So you're possibly going to be the low man on the totem pole unless they tell me that they don't want to be thrown into the elimination at all. And Kyle understands that, but he's not happy about it. And that's when they bring in Josh, and Bailey says that, hey, Swaggy C is ready to go in, and so I want him to get his opportunity first. And Fessy says that if Josh and Corey were to go up against each other in the elimination, that it could possibly be a lose-lose situation for his game. It's a bad move for his game, so don't hold your breath. So we kind of know where they lie heading out of this tribunal ceremony, which I think it's no surprise where their decisions and votes were gonna go. So now let's go on to Purgatory for this episode, and once at Purgatory, that's when TJ brings down Corey to join him on the Purgatory floor. And by a vote of 2-1, the tribunal votes in Swaggy C to go up against Corey in this week's elimination called Launch Button. Now, in this elimination, the 2 people will be harnessed, and they will have to swing back and forth on this rig to press buttons and light up all their lights on this giant truck rig. The first person to light up all 20 lights will be launched into the air and claim the winner, getting their red skull, getting their opportunity to run TJ's final, and possibly getting $1 million while the other person is being sent home. So once the 2 guys are rigged, that's when TJ blows the horn, and both guys are pretty slow off trying to swing like a pendulum. It is really difficult to get their footing, get their momentum going, but once they start getting into momentum, that's when they start turning on these lights, and Swaggy gets off to a banging start as he gets 4 lights to Corey's 1, and then that's when Corey starts actually getting into the momentum a little bit more. He gets a little bit more of a wider range, and he stays in the momentum longer than, say, Swaggy C. So once we get to a point where Swaggy is actually like 3 lights ahead of Corey, it was like 10 to 13, and then all of a sudden you would just see Corey light up 4 lights in the span of 1 minute. I mean, he was able to swing over, hit a light, swing back over, hit another one, and then just get 4 lights in a row, to the point where he was actually passing Swaggy later on in the later teens. It comes down to 19 to 16. It's a very, very close race up until Corey hits that final light. That is when Corey is launched up in the air. He is proclaimed the winner. He has claimed his Red Skull and is eligible to run TJ's final and possibly winning $1 million, while Swaggy C is eliminated from the season and is sent home. But what did you think about this episode? Let me know that in the comment section below. What did you think about the daily challenge? What did you think about the elimination? Let me know that. Let me know anything and everything you thought about this episode. While you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be back really, really soon with more videos, more content, and much, much more coming very, very soon. But until then, peace.